Angelina Ballerina watched the video I made last about how she defeats the Gail shield. Because her attempts to attack me and my men don't threaten my life or theirs. You know, I said that means that's why she's able to defeat it. I said she has to try to kill me in order to get my Gail shield to work. Well, she decided to prove me wrong. So she launched an attack against me that would try to kill me. And my Gail shield detected this change in her strategy, and the bomb she launched to hit the Gail shield, which caused it to ricochet and return to her, knocked out about half of her pink spaceship. Satan lied to her and told her that she was more powerful than Zack Knight. There's about a tendon here. Because she's more evil than him, and told her to lay off on trying to kill me until they gave her the go-ahead. But she's so full of pride. That's the swollen tendons here. She's doing that too. She's so full of pride, she told Satan that she's so hot and so evil that she wanted to display her powers to her followers and try to kill me, to prove me wrong, that the only reason my Gail shield hasn't harmed her is because she hasn't, I said that the only reason my Gail shield hasn't harmed her is because she hasn't tried to kill me. So she tried to kill me, and my Gail shield did its job. And the bomb she sent to try and kill me bounced off the Gail shield, did not penetrate it, and returned to its origination point and knocked out about half of her pink spacecraft. This has enabled Zack Knight to use his perfect penis to shoot a laser beam of semen at her because she's not protected by her spacecraft anymore, which he's been doing for about a week now. She's twirling inside half of her pink spacecraft. Satan scolded her and said, "You disobeyed me. That's why it didn't work." She said, "You lied to me and told me I was winning over the Gail shield because I was more evil than Zack." Well, you're stuck with me, Satan, because I won't hand over my Antichrist powers to anybody, like you conned Zack Knight into handing over his powers to me. From what I understand, Satan is having second thoughts about Angelina, but he's stuck because according to his non-interference agreement with Jesus, he can't just switch Antichrist whenever he wants. The current Antichrist has to willingly relinquish those powers and give them to Satan for him to be able to transfer the Antichrist powers to a new Antichrist. And Angelina is enjoying her powers too much to give them up. Satan actually groomed Zack Knight for his position over a period of about 60 years. Zack Knight has been a black man, an Asian, and twice a white man. He is now in his fourth reincarnation. Satan wanted his Antichrist to be all different races in his previous lives because he felt this would make Zack a more effective leader with deep insights into all of humanity so that he'd attract a great following. Jesus allows Satan to do this with his Antichrist candidates, and there have been about 50 of them. Zack was the favorite, and so Satan made him the Antichrist in February 2012. Zack has always been proud of his perfect penis, and Satan thought this would make the ideal Antichrist. The problems happened for Satan when Rule 13 also adored Zack's perfect penis, and love grew between Rule 13 and Zack. Finally, Zack decided he wanted Rule 13 more than he wanted to be the Antichrist, and that's when I was able to lead Zack to Jesus. Angelina then tried to kill Zack Knight for betrayal to Satan, but my Gail shield protected Zack, as it always does, whenever Angelina tries to kill me or one of my men, and Zack is one of my men now. And Angelina's space fleet was destroyed by the Gail shield. Angelina is in her first reincarnation. Satan may turn her into a man in her second or third reincarnation. The Bible says the Antichrist will be a man. So Zack Knight is one soul who has been in 4 different bodies. Satan is only allowed to do this for his Antichrist. So Zack's body is a blend of all his previous lives. He basically has a black man's penis, an Asian's mentality, which may explain why he loves Japanese Rule 13, and a white man's body. Angelina was able to break through the Gail shield and try to attack me previously because she did not plan to kill me at the time, but to brain rape me only and make me enjoy lesbian love with her. So Jesus had to intervene and chased her away. She boasted to the Jesuits that she was more powerful than Zack, which Satan wanted her to believe. She now knows that the only reason she defeated the Gail shield, the time that she did, was because she did not try to kill me. Because the Gail shield is only programmed to save my life and the life of my men. It's not programmed to take the place of God and try to save the planet. That's Jesus' job. Her current strategy is to weaken the Gail shield by trying to make it difficult for me to obey the Gail commandments. My obedience to the Gail commandments keeps the Gail shield strong against her. She used a lightning strike on Tuesday that hit the Melbourne, Florida area where I live. At around 7:15 p.m. on September 27, 2016, a lightning strike at Melbourne's water production facility briefly knocked out the power service. The emergency standby generators were not called into service, which resulted in a loss of power so that the high service pumps faulted and shut down. This prevented the demands in the water system from being met for a few minutes. Because of this, the water pressure dropped below the minimum requirements allowed by the state and created the potential for contamination of the system from outside sources. And we've had a boil water alert since then that will last until tomorrow, 3 days. But I'm still bathing every day, brushing my teeth, and doing laundry and all the Gail commandments. The biggest challenge is the dishes, because I have to use boiled water to rinse them. It's slowing me down, but not stopping me. She also tried to tempt me to spend money on Wednesday with Donald Trump in town for a rally, hoping I'd buy a ticket to go see him. But I stayed home, even though I planned to vote for Trump. Jesus said to spend money only on food and bills, not on Donald Trump tickets. It's always raining at the time of my walks, but I make sure to work out indoors with the windows open, like the Gail, when it's raining outside, like the Gail commandments tell me to do. The tendons around my left jaw joint are swollen from a minor yeast infection. There's something she's probably put in the air, and it makes eating a bit difficult, but I make sure to eat a balanced diet. That's the Gail commandments. I am determined to obey the Gail commandments so that we can get Terrance, Hugh, Gerard, and Matthew out of her control and defeat her. She's able to keep Terrance, Jenkins, Gerard, Butler, Matthew McConaughey, and Hugh Jackman under her control because she's not trying to kill them, but just uses brain control to force them to make love to her all day. The Gail shield only protects against brain control that is life-threatening to me or my men, and does not protect against seduction that is not life-threatening. Satan knew this. That's why he switched Antichrist. He actually wanted to get rid of Zack Knight, so he lied to Zack Knight and told Zack Knight to try to kill me, saying it would weaken my Gail shield. Satan knew that wouldn't happen. So anyways, that's how he was planning to switch out Zack Knight with Angelina. Even though she's twirling, she still has her powers of seduction and brain control, and she still has Matthew, Terrance, Gerard, and Hugh under her spell, and they're all making love to her as her brain-controlled sex puppets. She's still able to cause problems on Earth, too, and she still has some Jesuits who follow her. I believe she has about 10% of the Jesuits who followed Zack Knight when he was the leader of the Jesuits. So we don't have this Angelina problem licked yet. Zack Knight can't spend the rest of his life shooting laser semen at Angelina. He's just doing this to try and keep her somewhat under control and to hinder her, but she's still the Antichrist and still has her powers of seduction. If anybody gets close enough to her, she can use brain control on them and make her brain-controlled sex slaves. So anybody out there with Mensa IQ or who's a scientist, contact my men at gailsmen@yahoo.com to assist us to defeat her once and for all. While I wait for my men to come up with a way to finally defeat her, I've decided to tell the love story of Zack Knight with Rule 13. Zack risked his life to use CPR on Rule 13 to save her when she died when the Gail shield caused his super nukkake to ricochet and return to its origination point, where all the Jesuits died, except Zack Knight and Angelina Ballerina, the two Antichrists, though Angelina was able to resurrect all the dead Jesuits. She did this after Zack Knight came to Jesus. The Antichrist cannot be killed because Jesus allows them to stay alive so that Satan can have his Antichrist in fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Angelina then tried to kill Rule 13 and whacked her in the head with a frying pan, giving her a concussion, and then entered Zack Knight's semen bubble and told him she needed his Antichrist powers to save him and she would be back. So he gave them to her. She also lied and told him that Rule 13 died. Zack cried so much over Rule 13's death that he no longer cared about being the Antichrist. My men saw Rule 13's space pod, rescued her, and took care of her at Church of Gail. I heard what happened, contacted Zack brain to brain, and led him to Jesus. He and Rule 13 are number 3 on my marriage list now, and I've rewritten my prenuptial agreement for the men on my marriage list, and to add in Zack Knight and Rule 13. If you go to my Facebook page, you can see what I've written, as I need special rules for them that differ somewhat for the rules for the rest of the men on my marriage list. Check out my writer page as I write the love story between Zack Knight and Rule 13. I post my latest there on my books. I will show how Satan thought he had his perfect Antichrist and underestimated the power of love to transform his Antichrist into a Jesus Christ follower. I've already designed the cover to the book and have created a playlist of music that expresses the themes to the future book. This book will work beautifully with past projects that I've started and abandoned. Like I started a story about Zack and Rule 13 in 2013, but scrapped it to write a story with Jesus as the main character, then scrapped that. All the research for all these past books will work beautifully in my current project, which has Zack, Rule 13, Jesus, and Satan as main characters. I'm currently rereading Orson Scott Card's writing instruction books, Characters and Viewpoint, and How to Write Science Fiction and Fantasy, to write this true novel like a fantasy novel. I send the drafts to Zack and Rule 13 and my men, and they let me know if I'm off. This is a true story written like a fantasy novel. I'm really excited about this. It's a very important story.